I am Kesten Rono, and today is day 17, and you're here. Thank you for being here with us, exploring A Course in Miracles together. I hope you're taking it easy today. We are too. Yesterday, we were talking about another one of the benefits of giving some part of our true self away, that miracles, such as they are, again, miracle itself not being the focus, but a miracle is actually a teaching device. And it's an opportunity for us to be able to witness that it's a blessing to give. When we give, we receive, and that's possible. And that in addition to miracles being a beginning and end, emerging from love and being expressions of love, we are being invited to the idea that miracles also give us strength, and possibly, love is strength, and feeling more love fills us with more opportunity to feel strong in the presence, which is a very cool idea. Why not feel strong and robust? And again, we were reflecting on the idea that when we can recall our fear-based feelings, if we can visit a fearful time in our life, a memory, something that we have a very, we would say, negative charge to, or if we can imagine that we're right in the face of something fearful, however awful you want that to be imagined or not. And if we can compare that to um, my fear of this book, of losing my page, if we can compare that to when we feel rested, when we feel even stressed, but from forms that help us grow, like exercise or visiting these fears, when we feel provided for, when our creativity is blossoming, when we're building something with someone, when we're exchanging something genuine, when we are communicating, when we feel very strong, or when we feel full of love, I believe we feel far stronger. I think fear can take a hold of us, and through that process of proving to ourselves deeper down that rabbit hole that if we engage in fear, and we're able to have relative power over someone else by projecting that fear upon them, that we harden ourselves into believing that this version of control is actually creating more strength. But fundamentally, I would imagine that if you spend a little time with it, you'll come to the conclusion that you feel far stronger when you feel full of love, when you are with a family member and you've gotten lost in whatever adventure or game you're playing. That kind of photo that someone snaps of you, absolutely candid. The one where you look at yourself, like I see myself in all these videos, and we could have all kinds of judgments for ourselves. And yet, that's not what everyone else sees. That beautiful candidness, you know, opportunity of love and laughter that we might just stumble upon if we're lucky enough, until we learn how to harness it and feel it for ourselves, again, without trying to assume control over it, accepting the ways that we feel rather than pushing them aside, burying something down. That feeling of love, that electric moment that sometimes is caught in that candid photo, I would imagine that we feel extremely powerful in that moment, full of strength, full of love, not depleted and in lack like fear would naturally promote. Fear's whole mechanism is making sure that you feel scared, that you feel depleted, that you feel in lack, that things are hopeless, that everywhere you look is just more and more depression and violence and anger and pain. And everywhere we look in our past, we feel the same thing. We can only see ways that we are violated. And rightfully so, maybe we have been. Maybe we have been violating ourselves. that's okay. I'm not saying it's okay to go hurt anybody. I'm saying it's okay to realize that we wish we could feel a different way, that we don't have to dig this hole, and the further we dig this hole, the weaker we feel, or at least the less opportunity we have to feel life, this strength of being alive, what it feels to walk outside and look up the sky and say, wow, and there's nothing going on there, right? It's just the sun or the clouds or the moon or just the treetop. It doesn't matter. Wow. To feel wow is to feel alive, but it's something deeper than just being shocked by the spectacle. Something else that was introduced yesterday that I think is worth highlighting again was we have true thoughts and false thoughts. There's a lot of paradoxes going on here, and I think it's worth adding a little bit of clarity, if we can, on day 17 now, to these multiple meanings of nothingness, these multiple meanings of illusions. Let's take ourselves on day 1. Let's assume you're like me and you have no idea what's going on, and you just want to be open to the principles in this book. You're naive, but not enough to realize that you've been arrogant about how you feel, that you've pushed yourself onto other people, and that you have had to come to terms with the ways that you have been feeling inside and admit that there's an unawareness about how you've been reflecting that out into the world and what kind of ripple effect it's caused. And so you like to make peace. It doesn't mean we can go back in time and fix everything, but you're curious about how you may see a different way, and therefore you can leave a different wake of love, possibly even, when you move throughout life. Not to undo, but to move forward, to leave everything that you are behind. Not out of anger and dismissiveness, but out of appreciation that it has gotten you so far that you could see a point where you say, I think I'd like to dress myself in love now. At least then I could compare the two, couldn't I? So let's pretend that's you. We were invited to realize that the way that we were seeing the world was an illusion. We were saying that we've given all the meaning that we can to these ideas, all these things around us. Then we started practicing saying, these things are meaningless. And if that offered us some kind of discomfort, not that it was talking about discomfort at the time, we were just told to say, we don't understand. I don't understand. Allowing ourselves to admit with our spelling, our spell casting, that everything around us is meaningless, while at the same time, clearly, we're grabbing on in confusion to, how could that be possible? I see so much hurt. Or I love what I see. Well, I don't want it to be meaningless. But we're accepting this idea that our thoughts are just what we think they are. That these thoughts, that we think we are having thoughts, is already one layer into what it will ultimately introduce is the ego. And that our ego is attempting to create images based off of what we have experienced out of its main line of programming, which is to preserve us. So, we get dressed in our ego and we are the ego, and therefore we are desperately trying to preserve or postpone a sinking ship riddled with holes, all this light coming through in different ways that we're just asked, please don't actually pay attention to that. And if you notice it, it was a lie. See how afraid you should be? I can show you another fear-based thing. Would you like to see the news? Would you like to be surprised tomorrow? Let's have this reaction so I can prove my existence is required. So here we were experiencing something false. We were perceiving it as true, and we were interested in changing it. but it was false, meaning it's not really there if we're allowed that principle. So we were actually admitting that what we were seeing is nothing, which is different than the nothingness we arrive at as we start to address these principles. So here is the terminology that I think is worth revisiting. We had to admit that what we were seeing was an illusion, that it was nothing. It was nothing. And where we want to arrive is at nothingness, which when we got started was not even an illusion. It was an abstract, foreign, asinine concept. But was it? Why are we really here? How did we get here? Why are we listening to me talk? Because we're curious about something. Because water is filling the hull of the ship. And this idea of whatever we have seen, however it's manifesting all around us, whatever we want to highlight, this idea is losing its hold. It's sinking. And if we pretend that it's floating, people can keep telling us that like everything is fine, The problem is these people. It's anything but us. And we don't have a whole lot of leadership examples where people are coming forthright and saying, well, rather than saying it's their fault and let's blame them and let's go on the offense, where are more people saying, I don't know where this could have gone wrong, and I think it would be easy to pass blame, but I'm going to take accountability because I participated in this, and I want to make sure that it changes, so I'm going to start with myself. This was my fault. And that's essentially what we're being asked to do here, is to say there's something that I have contributed, and therefore there's something that I can contribute, that I will be contributing no matter what I do. And if I will be contributing no matter what I do, then I want to awaken to that process, become more aware of that process, whatever that process is, even though the language of what that process is going to ostracize me from what I was before. There's a safety net in the structure that we have around us. And if we attempt to see things differently, we can't guarantee that the people who are around us will see it the same way or at the same rate. That's not the point. The point is that we say, I've been a part of this too. And when I am engaging in this system of fear, I am just contributing to more and more of it, even if I don't think that I am, because I'm busy thinking, I'm busy controlling, I'm busy missing the point, and I'm waking up to some kind of point that I might have been in a fearful way. And I want to be in a loving way. And I'm open to the idea that, maybe I've never known what that was either. And if I'm demanding that I do, well, hopefully I'm able to catch myself highlighting that even here, I'm pretending that I know best. Because all I need to do is realize that my experience that I've had is different than the person right next door, or even my best friend that I could have grown up with. We just are fundamentally different, even if we could be that close. And if I can realize that I'm different, then I realize that everyone else is different. And if whatever I am is, then whoever I'm looking at is also. They're human. They're in this with us. And if I am coming to believe that I might even want my life to be differently than it has been, then I realize that if I feel that I should be able to change and therefore contribute in a positive way, then so should everyone else. And what that means is the odds are probably better than not that that person is different in their experience and perspective than I am, which means that we probably disagree. And even if we can come together using language and say that we agree, I don't know what it's like to be this person at all. I've had to sit with that, let's say, with my family. I have no idea what it's like to have been my sister and what she's experienced, and yet she's a model. A model. of strength and capability, setting a standard for me to hope to rise to. And I don't know what's fueling that. And even if I could imagine some of the things that have been challenging for her, I don't really know what that's like. I don't hardly even know what my own memories were like for sure. They just have a charge to them. So there's a lot of grace that we can say they're figuring something out too. And they're figuring something out at their own rate. And it's highly unlikely that even if their main operation from our lens, which would still be a judgment, we'd be short-sighted, if their main operation from our lens is a fear-based thinking, I mean, who are we to know? Relative to what? To us and our ego, demanding that we have it all right? Even if we're egoically conscious enough to say they have a fear-based thinking, which is why they can't see it this way yet. Fundamentally, as someone who also exists, we can understand that just by visiting ourselves, that we want to be well. And that every time we go out and abuse ourselves and we become conscious of it, we know in our gut that that might not have been the right thing, even if we don't know how to ask for help or change. So, can we allow ourselves to say, even though we're made of the same things and require some of the same ways of fueling ourselves through time and space, I don't know what it's like to be you at all. And you don't know what it's like to be me at all. So may we have a little bit of grace into realizing that everyone is coming into the process of discovering strength because that's truly what allows them to exist. And strength happens through miracles because miracles are an exchange of love. Their source is some unconditional source that allows everything to exist, including our egoic, fear-based mindset that is desperately trying to say, I'm afraid, which means that there must be some kind of war, which means I must be able to prevent it from happening, which means I must fight. And I'm not denying that there's not worth things defending or denying that there aren't things worth defending. I don't want anything to happen to her. Look at her. She doesn't want anything to happen to me. When she's alert, she's taking care of me. How much of that is really painted out of love and how much of that is painted out of fear? And I think the fear-based says we need to harden up and fight. And the love-based says, I will move forward all the way into the fight. And if I can have an intention of love in my heart and simply be able to look across at whatever is across and say, that's my projection of fear that they are also feeling. I'm aware of it because I've spent time with myself. This fear is an illusion, and I'm not in control of it whatsoever. It desperately, as fear itself, does not want to accept love and that there can be some absolute truth, persistent through line, some resonance through time and space that can exist because when fear sees nothingness, the unknown, it's fearful. I've been fearful of the unknown. So here we are to truth and false again. Our fear-based thinking is false. We are accepting that everything that we had seen meant nothing. Through this process of it meaning nothing, we have arrived, or we are arriving, at nothingness, true nothingness, the absence of ego, whatever it is on the other side of accepting that in its own way, it still must accept love. Wherever that nothingness is, we're back to the unknown, the true emptiness, the slate on which God would have written. And that foundation is made out of love. true love, full love, whatever that is, perfect peace, perfect safety. That's where we are. And right there, right in that moment, is where ego and love exist. Ego desperately in that moment panics and creates fear. And love in that exact moment, if it can be recognized, can multiply in our experience into that realm. Whatever that means about how we see thereafter and items that are around, far beyond. We're on day 17. There's a beautiful thing here in that there are 365 days in this year in this book. And I'm here for them one at a time because we are in the present, releasing the past, bringing in the opportunity of the future, which is the unknown, discovering true nothingness, true meaninglessness by recognizing that the past had no meaning, even though, what's the John Wick quote? Believing that the past had no sway, but in the end, it's trying to convince us everywhere that we are slaves to our past, which holds all of our fear and shame and depression. And therefore, we must cover it up as much as we can. We can't be forthright. And there's an irony here. Oh, it's so easy to say, oh my goodness, how many ways have I done quote unquote wrong? How many days have I participated in some kind of lack of love? Whatever the fullest sense of that would be, well, it's probably every single day that I've ever been here. And so I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you for allowing me to be. And I love you. Starting with ourselves. That is where we are able to be in nothingness and allow that this nothingness, this unknown, can actually be infinite possibility. Infinite, as in we can multiply into it forever. As long as you can even dare go, you will go forever. That's where I was saying, at least, that lies, pain, suffering, fear is false. I mean, even our happy illusions we were talking about give rise to the antithesis. So there's more going on here, but for this, bite of a fractal, our fear is a zero. It's a false value. And we're taking an illusion of a brick of fear and trying to create a wall that we want to turn into a house. And we know it's there for sure because in this fear-based world, that's the building material that you have. But in a truthful world, you can see right through that. It's not there. It's an illusion creating safety, desperately pleading for its own existence, to do anything to keep from having to see the unknown, which is frightening from a fear-based perspective. That's what fear is. Fear is attempting to multiply, but you cannot multiply by zero and get anything other than zero. It will remain false forever. It can compound, we suppose, in the realm of fear, where these things around us exist somehow to build, but we can also multiply and compound in truth and love if we can relax, if we can practice with ease, if we can even be uncomfortable and accept, oh, I'm on the practice, rather than saying, I'm so uncomfortable, I'm going to lock myself down or someone else down. I'm going to realize that my power comes from relative strength. But you know what? Thank goodness we've been able to see it that way. Because if there's a relativity, meaning that some are in lack and some are not, and what we crave is equality of opportunity, which is what love suggests that we can have. Because there is this polarity, that fear is helping us to see. And as we wake up to it, we see more versions of it, that we thought it was there and it's not. We are blessed with this idea of lack. And thank goodness that that creates the void in which abundance, truth, and love may flow. The miracle of love, the strength of life, enhancing both parties. Fear, you see, if you can follow this analogy far enough, is depleting both parties, and love is strengthening both parties. So we don't push aside what we discover. We feel it fully and say, thank you for being here. I love you. And in this process, we wake up to more love, like whatever that is, however that feels, and we become this wavelength of love. And we don't have to worry about fear anymore or the unknown. Paradoxically, it could still always exist. We don't want to realize that we were engaging even in the spectacle as we got in, and we tricked ourselves, and we started trying to take control, and we become manipulative again. Boom, fear-based thinking, we've teleported ourselves out. We're now building with elusive bricks, and we think that we are creating something real. But that's not the truth. The truth can only be in love. That's where life is. Everything else is on a path towards death. And we accept that death gracefully. And with any luck, we get to do it before it happens physically. So we just need to move from 0 to 1 by accepting that there is a truth. We've been looking at nothingness, but it's been a lie. We want to arrive at the true 0, the true center, where we can see both sides, the eye of the storm, and then we can pick a direction. And if we pick any direction from the storm, we'll get out of it. We just have to move in that direction and take a step for the sake of the step. And we have to do it with intention. That's everything about it, is our intention. What is your intention? My intention is to love and heal. How can you be allowed to do that? You don't have this certification. You don't have that degree. But you do. You're human. You've been imbued with it, with the opportunity. And so has everyone else around you. And they are also fallible for the same reasons that you are. And the chances are they're also living in an illusion. But who are you to say? That's for them to discover on their own time. All you have control over is if you choose to believe that there's an opportunity to try on a new way of believing and thinking and experiencing. And if you choose that that is a possibility, well, then you are imbuing yourself with love and strength and life. And you're choosing life by not choosing, even if it's the smallest degree, to abuse yourself any longer. And no matter how many times you catch yourself abusing yourself, or no matter how many times you find that there's a new wave of an emotion from the past that needs to be sat with and listened to, you're not falling off the path if your intention is to greet those things with love and kindness as soon as you become conscious of it, because I believe that's kind of reverting ourselves back to the center, to a true nothingness, by saying, this doesn't have to mean anything. That could be a first step before saying this doesn't mean anything, some knowingness. Well, I'm here to say, it doesn't have to mean what you believe that it means. And you fundamentally know that, because you can have the same event happen to you as to somebody else, and you both can feel differently. So right away, everyone around us is offering us a huge gift, a gift of strength and life, and saying, it's okay for the way that you've experienced something. We're all just doing our best to find meaning around us where we feel safe. And in the end, we want to be able to feel peaceful and offer that peace to someone else. Because in the end, our physical selves must turn over. that is the best thing that we can offer, if there's a best thing. Everything has been turning over for us to exist and get as far as we ever have gotten. The least we can do is gracefully offer it back when time is done with its lessons. And we're allowed to see that there's a knowingness about love. What my grandmother said, it's all okay. There's a knowingness. And you're allowed to know that, even if you don't know what it is. All right, let's chit chat. Coming in, big girl. All right. Day 17. Miracles transcend the body. They are sudden shifts into invisibility, away from the bodily level. That is why they heal. Miracles transcend the body. They are sudden shifts into invisibility. Interesting. Away from the bodily level. So there is something invisible. There's something else going on here. And our body, a great tool, an infinitely, discoverable tool. The science has never settled on what we are and how it works. And right here, we're being exposed to a whole nother invisible layer. We know these plants, if you have an infrared camera, would be showing you light. I can't see it. So even if we can't imagine what they are, we can imagine that there are senses beyond our five senses. That's just one. It's helping me with my image making. It's not helping me with my sight. Thank you for these tools for helping with my image making, either navigating a true space or creating one for me to play in. Whatever. They're the same, there's no reason to dismiss one or the other. It is, unless you have the answer. If you have the answer, please tell me. But for now, I'm going to keep going with the idea that this is fun, to have these senses and to have this sense that there's something else going on, and that to see the whispers of it everywhere. Like I said, infrared lights on plants. It's not a big deal. Right now, there's Wi-Fi in this house. Dang it. I don't want to be around it. Cell signals. We know this. I could turn the radio on. It works. I could turn the TV on. Signal. It'd be foolish to assume otherwise. She's too cute. So let's accept that there's an invisible. Let's accept there's an invisible. Miracles transcend the body. They are sudden shifts into invisibility, away from the bodily level. That is why they heal. So we've got all kinds of great medicine. I'd argue that it's best served acutely, and that there are other ways that we can support ourselves. A process worth moving towards if we find ourselves in dis-ease. And here we're learning another way of experiencing ease through dis-ease, comfort through discomfort. So there's lots of ways of reducing our overall stress load, and this is one of them. So today, let's accept that a reason, at least, we can heal is because there's something going on in an invisible realm to us, at least right now. There's something going on that invites a healing process. Okay. I don't think that was upsetting. Miracles transcend the body. Transcendence. That's a fun idea. Wouldn't it be interesting to reach further than we're able to reach? Did the anecdote of me sharing about my grandmother kind of hint to the idea that maybe at least love cuts through whatever time and space is, and I'm here in time and space? That I grow and decay with time across space? So maybe relax into the idea and appreciate that miracles transcend the body, that they heal. because they shift suddenly away from the bodily level. And remember, miracles are happening all the time. So maybe there is some shift that's happening all the time if we're not so insistent on control because of our fear. Lesson 17 is short. I see no neutral things. Okay, yesterday was I have no neutral thoughts. This thought about my hair is not a neutral thought because I have no neutral thoughts. I see no neutral things. You see no neutral things. This idea is another step in the direction of identifying cause and effect as it really operates in the world. You see no neutral things because you have no neutral thoughts. I have no neutral thoughts. Therefore, I see no neutral things. It is always the thought that comes first, despite the temptation to believe that it is the other way around. This I love. I've been, tickled by this idea that energy is preceding matter. I think I've stumbled upon anecdotes in science that even suggest it. How many black swans do we need to believe before we're allowed to believe that at least in some capacity it's possible? But we'll just go with the text here. It is the thought that comes first, the energy, despite the temptation to believe that it is the other way around, that the matter exists, that somehow this table is energy before matter. It's thought before matter. Is that so insane? Is everything that you experience in 3D not created in 2D first? It occurs in your mind. It typically goes to a piece of paper, often that, or even into a computer for CAD, where it's still living in some non-height, width, length experience. And then we build it. Well, where did that come from? There's a linear way of saying that. It came from the tree. It came from whatever. You can track it as long as you want. But this idea came from some ether, if we're allowed to call it that. Different eras of science would probably not appreciate that. But there is somewhere that ideas come from. We're not talking about the matter that comes after. We're talking about the idea that comes. Where do the ideas come from? Not the matter, but the ideas. They were created. They're created somewhere, but it's not us creating them. We could go off and say they're electrical signals. Okay, sure. I just think that we run into an unknown eventually, which means that at some layer deep with whatever tools we have to look, we bump into the reality, whether through science or spiritual practice. We cannot escape the idea that there's something else going on here, and we don't know how to see it. That it's worth sinking into whatever true sight is and accepting it for what it is. A discomfort in our understanding which requires a practice, which in the end, I would imagine, reveals a knowingness. We had to abandon our meaninglessness to find meaninglessness. And in there, we know we're moving somewhere on a path to knowingness, I suppose, without it being self-righteous. If we grip it, it goes away. We're accepting and we're learning. And we're on a path. What's that saying? If you're on a path, don't be surprised when you get to the destination. Let's head in a direction that allows us to believe that there's something else going on here, because it paradoxically is allowing us to feel fuller, feel wider. Miracles transcend the body. You can be bigger than you've ever been, and you can tempt yourself to go there selfishly so that you can arrive at this idea of love, recognizing that when you enter this space, you never had to take advantage of it in the first place. That was a fear-based mindset. And you give as much as you can away the more that you learn as you become yourself, because you're full and you grow in strength by first recognizing your weakness. Thoughts come first. This is not the way the world thinks, but you must learn that it is the way you think. This is not the way the world thinks, that thoughts precede items, things. We believe it's the other way around. That's a natural inclination. This is not the way the world thinks, but you must learn that it is the way you think. If it were not so, perception would have no cause. So, perception would have no cause to exist, no reason. The fact that you are perceiving would be totally meaningless. Like actually perceiving, becoming into nothingness, into meaningless, the opportunity for true sight, for true perception. Perception itself, that way, would have no cause. If material had to come before energy, if things had to come before thoughts. If it were not so, that you must learn that this is the way that you think, that thoughts proceed, that you have no, that their thoughts precede things, that you see no neutral things. If it were not so, perception would have no cause and would itself be the cause of reality. In view of its highly variable nature, this is hardly likely. So, reality or the perception of reality can be highly variable, as we were talking about. Each person having a different array of experiences causing them to perceive life differently and therefore come into this idea at different rates and different depths. Let's just go over that a little bit one more time. This idea is another step in the direction of identifying cause and effect as it really operates in the world. You see no neutral things because you have no neutral thoughts. It is always the thought that comes first, despite the temptation to believe that it is the other way around. This is not the way the world thinks, but you must learn that it is the way you think. If it were not so, perception would have no cause, and would itself be the cause of reality. In view of its highly variable nature, this is hardly likely. This is saying that if we are out of alignment with accepting the natural flow, that thoughts come before things, that all things have a, let's say, positive or negative, truth or false to them. All things are charged one way or the other by the very feature that all of our thoughts are charged one way or the other. If we accepted it inversely, which is the common way that people accept it, except here we are accepting our responsibility to see it differently. If we accepted it inversely, the way we have been, where we believe that things can be neutral and believe that things come before thoughts. If we accepted it that way, then our own perception would have no cause, and perception would be the cause of reality. We would be perceiving our past, it sounds, and creating a reality which is an illusion. In view of its highly variable nature, this is hardly likely. I'll let you sit with that. In applying today's idea, say to yourself with eyes open, opening your eyes, I see no neutral things because I have no neutral thoughts. Try saying it. I see no neutral things because I have no neutral thoughts. You see no neutral things because you have no neutral thoughts. Then look about you, resting your glance on each thing you note, long enough to say, I do not see a neutral couch because my thoughts about couches are not neutral. I do not see a neutral plant because my thoughts about plants are not neutral. For example, you might say, I do not see a neutral wall because my thoughts about walls are not neutral. I do not see a neutral body because my thoughts about bodies are not neutral. As usual, it is essential to make no distinctions between what you believe to be animate or inanimate, pleasant or unpleasant. Regardless of what you may believe, you do not see anything that is really alive or really joyous. That sounds like an offensive statement to our ego control that we started with on day one. But here we are being told to literally make our spelling that this is not the way the world thinks, but you must learn it is the way you think. If you can wear that, you may find some comfort, at least, in accepting the idea, and if not practicing, therefore, the idea that regardless of what you may believe, you do not see anything that is really alive or really joyous. That is because you are unaware as of yet of any thought that is really true and therefore really happy. So right now, day 17, us talking, me rambling maybe for you, trying to explore these ideas and lay them out. Even then, we're getting tricked that we're very far at all. Still, right now, we are in a fear-based past assignment recognition of material before thought thinking, even as we stretch ourselves in that direction. 3 or 4 specific practice periods are recommended, and no less than 3 are required for maximum benefit, even if you experience resistance. All right, here it is again. 3 times at least, even if we discover resistance. However, if you do, length of the practice period may be reduced to less than a minute or so that it is otherwise recommended. Here we've gone from, take it super easy, try it once, to let's actually hit a minimum. We are on our way to devotion, remember. But take it easy. These should be done easy. Remember, no miracle is harder or bigger than the other. So regardless of what experience you believe you're coming from relative to me, we're actually somehow shifting exactly the same. The paradoxes are the most fun about this entire exploration. Trying to allow ourselves to hold an entire idea that we would say positive or negative, fear-based or love, whatever, is totally different than the attention span we're giving to an algorithm as we scroll, which is supposedly free for us. And we just continually give away who we are, measurements, data, everything. And we give away the outsourcing of our emotions and our awareness to some process that lifts us up and then drops us down and then gives us an ad. And can keep giving us deeper and deeper as fear-based would, so that it can show us something happy and cause us to buy. Maybe it doesn't work anything like that. But I can tell you for sure, coming off of social media and then having to paradoxically again come here so that I can see myself growing and changing, so I can prove it. Even as I learn this is an illusion, has allowed me to feel more of myself by coming off that social media scroll. Wherever I am still addicted and whatever marketing I still notice, I'm not aware. But I'm still human and victim the same way. And as such, I allow myself to accept that regardless of whatever I believe, There is no distinction between animate or inanimate, pleasant or unpleasant, and I do not see anything that is really alive or joyous. Would I like to see things that are really alive and joyous? Then I will practice, because uh, I'm probably tricking myself, and I've committed to a year. This is because I am unaware as of yet of any thought that is really true, and therefore a thought that is truly happy. That will be something joyous if we make it there. But if we are on that path, well, let's just have some faith and realize that we don't need to be surprised as we suddenly arrive. I see no neutral things. You see no neutral things because you have no neutral thoughts. It is always the thought that comes first, despite the temptation to believe that it is the other way around. Your thought is not neutral, and that is affecting how you are seeing. The rest of the world does not feel this way, but we must learn that we have no neutral thoughts, and therefore we see no neutral things in that order. If we don't believe that, our own perception would have no cause, and it would itself be the cause of reality. In view of its highly variable nature, this is hardly likely. I hope this settles for us deeper. Suppose God and his love and his voice and his healing and his commitment to life, strengthening us through miracles, through some exchange. And we access that exchange at least through prayer. I suppose that, hopefully, is the basis for reality. So today, 3 times at minimum, it's okay if it's less than a minute. I see no neutral things because I have no neutral thoughts. I do not see a neutral book because I have no neutral thoughts about books. I have no neutral thoughts, and therefore I see no neutral things. I see no neutral things because I have no neutral thoughts. I am Kesten Rono, and you are invited to try this idea on. Thank you for all of your patience listening to me share. And in time, I look forward to hearing you share what you discover from your own experience. May you feel full and realize that you are growing in strength with each practice. See you tomorrow for day 18 of A Course in Miracles.